Hello, welcome back to Bite Size Dentistry. I'm Dr. Shrey, and today we are going to be talking about bypassing broken instruments. Now, basically, the purpose of a root canal procedure is to perform cleaning and shaping. And what a fractured instrument does is that it acts as a hindrance or as a roadblock for you to get to the apical part, thereby leaving infected tissue behind and then complicating your results and leading to failures and all of those things that we don't like. So today I'm going to be talking to you about 6 tips to help you perform the all-elusive bypass surgery. Let's get started. Number 1. So the first thing you want to do is gauge the difficulty of the proposition at hand. If it is an active instrument like an etch file or a rotary file that's been bound in really hard and fractured because of torsional fatigue, it's definitely going to be tougher to remove. On the other hand, the more apical that an instrument is, definitely the harder it is going to be to remove. Another thing is that when something goes past a curvature, obviously it's going to be very difficult to remove an instrument that's trying to straighten itself past a curvature. And thirdly, generally when the length is less than 5 mm, that greatly increases your chance of being able to retrieve or bypass an instrument. Number 2. You should prefer using a gel-based EDTA over an irrigation. Why? Because a gel-based EDTA gives a little bit of controlled cutting on the tip of the file where you apply it, while a liquid EDTA would soften the canal all the way around, and that can actually lead to ledging, which can make it more complex to bypass the instrument in the long term, and you'll see why shortly. Number 3. Always plan to take the inside lane of the fractured instrument. Now, why that's the case is the instrument itself will always want to straighten if it's fractured, especially in a curved canal, which means there's going to be very little space on the outside wall because it's going to try and straighten itself. So what you want to do is try to get on the inside lane of the instrument, because that's probably where there's a little bit of space between the dentine and the coronal most tip of that instrument. Number 4. Now what you want to do is take a look at the x-ray and see where you would need to pre-curve that file in order for it to enter, so adjust your stopper to that level. And pre-curving is best done with a gauze and your thumbnail rather than using a plier, because it tends to bend the flutes and that kind of makes cutting a lot less efficient. Number 5. Make sure you take advantage of those little black lines on your directional stoppers so that you have some kind of idea about where your file is and where it is engaging. It will reduce the amount of blindness in the blind procedure called root canal. Number 6. Watch winding motion. You got to go all the way back to the basics. Ideally use a C+ file because they are slightly more rigid and they will help you sneak past by preparing the dentine on the inner edge of the file and be able to get past it. Once you're past it, of course, you can use etch files, and if you're lucky, the etch file will engage the instrument and bring it out. If not, you will have a glide path. Now let's take a look at a case. So looking at this case, we can see there's a very poor coronal restoration which has led to a little bit of periapical infection, as well as there's what looks like a small, less than 5 mm fractured K file in a relatively straight canal, which looks like in the middle of the apical and middle third, and I think I'll be able to remove it. Let's see what happens. So the few things that we had to do is first de-roof the pulp chamber completely, make sure there is straight line access almost all the way till the file, and then prepare on the inner surface like we discussed and negotiate the file as you can see. The steps that we took were we used Gates Lydon for the orifice enlargement, then negotiation was done with K files with 10, 15 and 20 which were pre-curved and used in watch winding motion. After that, enlargement, I really like to do enlargement with etch files. I feel like they're rigid and they have flutes, so they cut quite aggressively. And step 4 is by using the rotary, just a 4% rotary, and then taking advantage of a beautiful sealer like MTA Philip X to be able to bathe that instrument in an antibacterial bioceramic seal, and that kind of leads to amazing successes in root canals. And studies show that a bypassed instrument has about the same amount of success as a conventional RCT. Parting words. Number 1, make sure that your orifice and straight line is absolutely straight, and that's absolutely key. Number 2, watch winding motion is very useful to sneak past these instruments, and what you want to be doing is try and taking the inside lane. Also, use EDTA discriminately, don't use too much of it and soften the dentine all around. You'll start ledging the dentine and not be able to go past the instrument. Cleaning is more important than shaping. Hence, flush with irrigant as often and as well as you can. And personally, what I like to do is after I've bypassed an instrument or removed an instrument, I like to wait 2 weeks before the crown, just in case there's something that's gotten left behind or the instrument is causing a little bit of infection. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Bite Size Dentistry. Merry Christmas. I'll see you guys here in the new year.